In order to be near my computer first, I'll just bring it here. I see that there's sunlight in that way, though. I don't usually teach at this hour of the day, so it's a different lighting situation. I do need to be near my PowerPoint, so I'm going to share. I'm going to share my screen now so you can see. Hi, Angie. I'm going to share my screen now so you can see my PowerPoint. So I'd like to just talk a little bit with you about how, first, I guess before I share that, I'll just say the reason I really feel strongly about sharing yoga at this time is that I really feel like a lot of us are super stressed out, and for lots of really good reason. And about 15 years ago, or a little less than that, I came to a crossroads at Niscasa where I almost had to leave. And I've been doing yoga for many years. I started studying in the 80s and when I was in college. And it was always a lifeline and a supportive practice for me. However, at that point, Niscasa wasn't being led by its current director, and I was feeling a lot of challenges about staying there. And at the same time, I was taking a couple of yoga classes a week to help me manage my stress. And I am a survivor, and there were things that were coming up that were really triggering for me. And it was extremely difficult to show up every day. I was not in a supervisory role yet in part of the management team, and I was sort of at the mercy of the administration and having some real struggles. And at the same time, my yoga instructor at the Yoga Loft here in Albany decided to offer a teacher training program, bringing in a teacher from Northampton. And I had no intentions of doing it, but I went ahead at the last minute because people were encouraging me to do it. And I realized that I didn't have to teach yoga. I could just do it for my own deepening of my personal practice. And that's what kind of got me started on this road of deepening my yoga practice to the point where now I'm offering it as an instructor. And including it, I figured at first I would just include it in my healthcare coaching consultations, because I am a health coach as well, a holistic health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. But then I started getting invited to teach a little bit here and there, and was delighted to be invited to consider being a teacher at Pinnacle Behavioral Health, which is where I teach on a weekly basis now. And with all this stuff going on for us here, as advocates, as survivors, as people who are just really at our wits' end with what's going on nationally, with our political scene and everything else going on, with COVID, of course, need I say more about that? I just felt like this was something that was long overdue to offer my people as advocates, my fellow sisters and brothers in the work of survivor advocacy, trauma-informed supports, and social change agent work. I really feel strongly that we and more of us need to be fully present right now with the way things are. We need to be able to figure out how to navigate this world right now and navigate how we can be our best selves out there in the public sphere, as well as in our own private worlds, right? With each other, how we can support one another and ourselves and our well-being at a time that just seems exceedingly challenging, right? We have a lot on our plates, frankly. And I was always someone who felt that meditation was something I could not sit down and do because, you know, I didn't have time to sit down. I didn't have time to rest. I mean, sleeping was one thing, but resting, you know, in addition, was just not my thing. I was always a doer, and yoga teacher training reminded me that we're human beings, that we're not human doings. And it really helped me to connect with some things I had been running from, frankly, and some fears and some anxieties and some inhibitions, if you will, and started really to do more self-study, more self-exploration. And I really feel that that's one of the key points for yoga that I love so much, is it's about self-study, but it's not self-study in the nasal gazing way that a lot of people think it is. It's self-study in order to be our best selves, in order to rise above the things that have caused us pain and suffering. And certainly many of us know that, we've been through trauma, and we know that those things are weightful, and they can definitely keep us in a dimmer place, in a darker space. And so to be able to rise and float and basically transcend some of our previous experiences with tools, with support and peer support. I really feel like one of the things that's been a blessing to me is having a community in which to practice. And of course, with COVID now, I'm not in that community practicing. I don't have my face-to-face interactions with my instructor anymore. My teacher isn't teaching right now, at least not that I know of, not online. She doesn't have an interest in that. She has other work that she does. So I've had to really deepen my own practice. And thankfully, in the winter before COVID hit, Ms. Casa gave me a chance to study mindful self-compassion with my project partner, Deb Faust. We both enrolled in a course from the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion. And that was a blessing because it took me from mid-January until mid-March almost. And right around the time that lockdown was starting, I don't really like that word, but COVID was starting to shut things down. And so when I was doing that, while I was doing that, I enrolled in another meditation program with the Chopra Center to become certified as a meditation instructor later this year. Currently, I am studying Ayurveda and studying different aspects of yoga. And I find that it's made me want to make sure that when I offer asana practice, I also let folks know that there's much more to yoga than asana practice. Asana being the physical postures and poses that we'll practice in a few minutes. There are so many other pieces of yoga that have to do with our self-study, our breath, our attitude toward ourselves and toward others, and the way that we conduct our space, our live in our space, the way that we move through the world, and what's the ability of our minds to focus in and actually concentrate. And I recognize now, because I've been meditating now since February on a daily basis, how sitting meditation has really been something missing from my practices. As much as I would meditate in the garden while I weeded, just like focused in on that gardening practice, or maybe while I was walking meditation is lovely. And there are so many ways that we can meditate. And I think they're all really great. So I'm not saying everybody needs what I need. However, for me, sitting meditation has been awesome because it has made me really take stock in what it means to quiet this, what it means to really quiet this activity between my ears that can be relentless, right? And so to really let that pause and get a few moments. Sometimes it's really just a few moments. It's really not a whole half an hour of sitting. I mean, I do a half an hour of sitting meditation every morning. However, I don't fully get into that zone for the half an hour. There's lots of thoughts that come in. That's part of the practice. And I know that you may have tuned in to do asana with me, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time discussing meditation, but I just feel like it's important to bring it up because not everybody resonates with the postures. And I want to remind us that asana is the seat that we sit in to meditate. And so asana practice is really meaning that we practice getting our bodies prepared to sit in a seat for meditation. So that's why I wanted to take a few moments before we dive into doing the mat work, the chair work, the practice, I should call it. It's really not work. And also one of the other components that I think lends itself to the concepts of trauma-informed care is, which now I'll bring up my slides because this is where you'll see the similarities between trauma-informed care and yoga. So I hope you can see that. Let me make sure I've got the slideshow.
Hey, Chris, you'll need to share your screen so we can see it.
Oh, I did hit that button, but I guess it didn't work.
You'll have to select the window that you want to share.
Thank you. Bear with me, folks. This is a little new for me. I see what you mean. Now, can you see it?
Yep, we see it.
So when I was studying, I don't know how many of you are familiar with my work with the Building Connection Sexual Assault Mental Health Project, which I've conducted for many years with project partners from the Heightens. And my partner there these years is Deborah Faust from the Heightens. She's wonderful. And I don't know if she's out there, but hi, Deb, if you're out there. Deb and I have done trainings on vicarious trauma. And one of the basic pieces around vicarious trauma is ABCs of vicarious trauma. And they seem to me to very much connect to the ABCs of yoga. Attention and awareness, making sure we're really in tune with ourselves, our breath, where we're at, where people are, like tuning into our surroundings, being aware, right? Being totally aware, and also noticing when we're internalizing the stresses of others. And then breath and balance, like really noticing if we're not in balance, because our breath will tell us that. And we'll do a little bit more with the breath in a moment. And throughout our practice, really just practicing the compassion piece for ourselves, connecting to our own consciousness of where we're at, and are we shaming ourselves? Are we shoulding on ourselves? You know, a friend of mine, Sharon Lastique, who I don't know if she's on the webinar or not today, but she and I did some health coaching workshops for folks years ago. And we talked about, like, let's not should on ourselves, right? Let's not constantly pressure ourselves, because that's one of the causes of stress, and it rarely does us any good. In fact, I don't think it ever really does. So I wanted to just touch on the ABCs of yoga and vicarious trauma, because I do think they connect beautifully, as they are so compatible. And just to remind, if you haven't studied yoga before, that there are 8 limbs to yoga, and asana, as I mentioned earlier, is only one of them. So you'll be getting these slides following the webinar, so you don't have to read them now, but I have them here for those of you who like to have a visual other than me. And because I want you to know that there's lots more you can take away from this than what we do here now. There are resources you'll be able to bring into your own personal practice. So let's right now just focus on relaxing in a chair and finding out where we're at with our breath. And just really, I'm going to have to move back a bit, so I hope you can continue to hear me well. But I'd like to know, like, how your breath is feeling right now, where your breath is. And I don't need you to tell me this, but maybe you'd like to tell yourself. Where do you feel your breath in your body? Is it shallow? Is it relaxed? Is it deep? Is it in your belly and your heart area, your chest area? Can it be soft? If it's fast, can you make it a little bit slower by just allowing your limbs to settle, allowing your thoughts to settle? I'll give give us all another moment to really connect with our breath, and then we'll move into some movement. And for now, I'm going to dispense with the slides and just let you know that there's plenty more here for you. And maybe we'll jump back to this later.
Chris, if you come back to Zoom, you can turn off the screen sharing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. It's weird. It's like not giving me the full options in Zoom, but here we go.
I think I can do it from here if that would be easier.
Just told me it was paused. Oh, I'm going to stop it. Okay. So thanks for bearing with me. This is my first webinar by myself, and I'm really grateful that you have the patience to be with me and enjoy whatever we can enjoy together. As we breathe, let's just put our hands on our thighs and begin by just lifting the shoulders with an inhale as high as they'll go toward our ears, and then exhale, drop them down and let the arms go slack. Inhaling them up, exhaling them down. Inhaling up, exhaling down. One more time. And then we'll just let our head drop forward, resting our chin as low as it will go without any strain on the neck. And as we proceed, I'm going to just remind us all that yoga is not a practice of no pain, no gain. It is never about that. So take care of your bodies. If there's anything I suggest doesn't feel like the right thing for you right now and right here, please just don't do what I'm doing and do what your body's asking you to do. Your body's your teacher. I'm just a guide. And of course, there are going to be limits that all our bodies offer us. I have limits in how far I can go in poses, and I suspect that every one of us does. Some of you are going to be more limber and be able to go further than me, and that's great. Some of you are going to want to stay in the chair for the whole time, and that's fine. We will be moving out of the chair in a little while. But the next thing we're going to do are neck rolls. And some of us don't have flexibility in our necks. So I really want you to take care of your neck and only go so far as your neck allows. For years, I used to push in yoga. I'm a very Rajasic person. I'm a Pitta in the Ayurvedic body types. So I tend to push, push, push. And I've paid a price. So now it's telling me my battery's running low. I'm going to go get my charger. I thought I had it plugged in, but apparently I had the wrong connector. I had the wrong, had it in the wrong place. So sorry about that. Hope you're all still with me.
It's glad to have you back, Chris.
Thank you. Always a lesson in self-awareness. I started to stress out. So here we go. As I said, we're just going to take it slow, because it's really about honoring our body's limits and not pushing it. I can't believe how much I'm getting reinforcement of that lately with the Ayurvedic studies with the Chopra Center. So as we breathe in, we'll drop the head. And as we breathe out, We'll gently move it toward the right shoulder, letting the ear drop down, and then lifting back up with an inhale. Exhaling to the left shoulder. And just let your breath guide you. As you breathe in and out, begin to let your neck loosen up and roll from side to side. And if you can, allow it to drop back. Let your neck stretch back, giving your thyroid a bit of an opening here. And continuing to circle in one direction till you come back to center. And then the opposite direction. Nice and slowly breathing the entire time. You can have your eyes closed or you can have your eyes open. Throughout this practice, whatever helps your awareness, whatever helps you to stay present, eyes opened or closed. And then we'll come back to center, letting the shoulders drop and then lifting them up. And we'll roll them back and down, letting the chest lift as we lift the shoulders. Letting the shoulders drop. And then we'll revolve in the opposite direction, pulling the shoulders back and up, and then forward and down. Back and up, and forward and down. Remembering to fill ourselves with the breath as we go. And then let's just take our hands out in front of us, entwining the fingers, keeping the arms in the shoulder girdle. So we're not overextending here where things can be tender. Just letting the arms be as straight as possible. And I'll turn to my side. So you can see the difference between this and this. Keeping my shoulders moving down the back. And then we'll lift the arms up overhead, only as high as feels good for you. Letting the chest open and expand. Letting it broaden. Letting the shoulders continue to drop toward your tailbone. And your seat be solid in your support. Breathing in and gazing up toward your ceiling. And then exhale, let the arms open and twist to the right. And just let yourself find the base of the chair or the back of the chair and maybe the inside of one of your legs. And just let yourself be long. Let your tailbone drop, your head lift, and lengthen your spine. With each inhale, you lengthen. With each exhalation, just turn a slightly bit more to the right. Breathing and lengthening, revolving on the exhale. And then we'll breathe on an inhale. We'll bring the arms up again. Exhale them back to center. Hands back to the heart center. Open up once again. Arms out to the side. Hands up. This time we'll twist to the opposite side. And on the exhale, let the arms come down. Find a place to root your hands. And on the inhale, lengthen your spine. Keep it nice and long. Keep the shoulders dropping back as the chest broadens and the heart lifts. As you exhale, revolve slightly more to the left. Notice where your feet are. Notice if your feet start to move. You want your feet to stay anchored to the floor here, rooted to the earth. And as you take your last inhale, exhale in this pose, you'll gently bring yourself back to center. And just to honor too that we have inherited these practices from ancient indigenous peoples who developed them because they were stressed in their day too. So it's really interesting to me to think about ancient India and what made folks explore these practices. We like to romanticize about how things were always different, better, or more evolved in other lands. And certainly I believe that there are definitely examples we should be learning from past cultures as well as present cultures in other lands. But I want to just acknowledge that this beautiful gift of yoga comes from ancient indigenous roots of the Indian people, and certainly is something that has been similarly practiced in other South Asian cultures. And so I just wanted to make sure I brought that out. And I also want to remind us how earth spirited this practice is, that we are rooted, we want to stay connected to Mother Earth when we practice yoga. So being aware of where our feet are at all times is a key component to doing the poses with the support that they require. So even when we're sitting, we want our feet to be on the earth. We want them to be resting evenly and firmly as however possible, given we might have injuries in one foot or another. I honor that we all have different capacities in our legs and our feet. But that's something that if we can connect to the earth through our feet, it's something I want to encourage us to do. And now we'll do some side bending. So let's get the arms up one more time from the chair. Get them really long. I'll move back a little bit so you can see me better. Then we'll lower the right arm to the chair, lift the left arm, keep it engaged in the arm, in the shoulder girdle on that side, and then dip over toward the right, getting a full extension on the left side, keeping the hips really seated here, and then opening our heads, our chest, gazing toward the ceiling, lifting and broadening the chest as we look toward the ceiling, and feeling how that gives us a little twist in the thoracic and cervical spine and a nice stretch through the left trunk. And let's not cave this right side in all the way. Let's keep length there as well. And you can support yourself by putting a hand on the bottom on the root of the chair or the leg of the chair. Then breathe and come on up and let that arm slowly cascade down. Take a moment to notice. And then we'll bring the right arm up. We'll let the left arm root us down. And we'll get a nice bend onto the right side. Again, keep those hips grounded, keep the sits bones seated. And then allow your chest to lift as you raise your eyes toward the ceiling. And get a full stretch on that right side trunk. So I'm starting with these poses because you can do these even while you're working. When you're sitting in a Zoom webinar that has nothing to do with yoga, you can practice some really simple techniques such as this. And I think that's all I have for chair for right now. Yes, so we'll gently come off the chairs now. Yeah, got 11:30, so I want to make sure to give us plenty of time for when you have questions later. So I'm going to bring myself down to the mat, and I hope you'll be able to see. I'm going to move back, and I hope you'll be able to hear me well. Chelsea will let me know if there are any comments that indicate otherwise. If you can bring yourself into a table position, that's tabletop position, is when your hands are directly under your shoulders and your knees are directly under your hips. your spine is as long as it can be. So you want to make sure that you're not over tucking here. And your hands, again, under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Inhaling, we're going to do cow pose and lift the head and the tailbone, pressing into the fleshy part of the palms under the knuckles, not into the wrists. Please put the weight into the knuckle area and let your wrists not be taking the weight. And then on the exhale, letting the tail and the head drop down and release toward the floor, letting the belly hollow out like a Halloween kitty cat, letting the head drop toward your arms. Inhaling, lifting the head up again, and really just lengthening and exploring this movement in the spine. Letting your spine waken and loosen up as it starts to really flow. Get the juices flowing in the spinal column. If you do no other poses on a daily basis, this one in and of itself will help you tremendously with flexibility in your spine. And once your spine is more flexible, things tend to go better. I encourage my students to even just pick one or two or maybe three favorite asanas to incorporate in their daily practices. And this would be one of the few I would really recommend. And now we'll come back to table. So our spine is now level. And if this pose for any reason does not feel okay on your wrists, you can bring your hands down to the forearm, bring your arms down rather to your forearms, and just let your arms be on their side so that your fingers are entwined, like the way they were before, like in prayer pose. So you've got your hands on the mat and your forearms down. If you're able to keep yourself in table, we'll stay here. In either of those positions, we're going to gently lift the knees, raise the hips, and come with bent knees, raising the hips, and then straightening the legs toward the wall behind us, but keeping the knees a little bit micro bent. We'll take downward facing dog. Or dolphin if you have your forearms down. That's called dolphin. And again, try to keep the weight under the knuckles. And we'll just walk the dog. We'll let the one heel come down and then up, and the other heel go down and then up. And just walk your dog here. And you can take it longer now that you're not in table anymore. Really take it long. Let your legs really get a nice stretch here. As you're up, make sure that your shoulders continue to move down your spine. And try to keep your chest lifting up. And then we'll come to stillness, gaze forward, and work our right foot into a lunge, however that is for you. Stepping forward with that right foot between your hands. And you can let the back leg drop onto the shin and rest there. Or you can keep it on the toe, on the ball of the foot, and get a long stretch in that back leg, whichever is right for you. And now you're in lunge and you're gazing forward. And your chest is again lifting and your shoulders are still dropping. You can feel a really nice stretch in the left hip flexor. And then we'll bring that right foot back. And we'll look forward. And we'll bring the left foot forward. And we'll get that same experience on the left side of the body. And with the right hip flexor. And again, if you prefer, you can keep that shin right there on the floor and simply take a lunge. If you're in that position and you'd like to challenge yourself, you can come up a little bit and just feel what that feels like coming up with a supported lunge. Now we'll go back one more time into dog really briefly. And then we'll just walk the feet up, walk the hands toward the feet, and we'll hang in Uttanasana, letting the head drop. Letting the hands find whatever support they might want. They might like to rest near the knees. They might want to come to the floor, wherever your hands can be comfortably, letting your head drop, letting your spine release, letting your head be really just let it go. Let it go toward the earth. Let your neck be really soft and long. We call this ragdoll, especially when we have the arms like this connected at the elbows and we just sort of hang here. These forward bends, I want to make sure to mention these forward bends. As you're ready, put your hands on your hips and come up with a straight, long spine. Any kind of forward bend is going to keep you cool. It's going to cool you off, I should say. Anytime you're forward bending in that pose or any number of forward bends, it tends to release stress for the nervous system, cool and calm your body rather than invigorate and energize. So it's a really nice one for calming down the nervous system. It's a really nice one for if we have a little insomnia. There are times when I can't sleep, I just get up and I'll do Uttanasana a couple of times and a couple of other forward bends. It really helps me to settle down. All right, so let's stand in Tadasana. Foundational pose called mountain. Everything when you're in Tadasana is in alignment. So you have your knees right over your ankles, your hips right over your knees, your shoulders right over your hips, and your head just rises you look at eye level. You try to keep your neck nice and aligned, not dipping toward any particular direction. And your arms are out at your side. So everything is alert and aligned. Chest is always lifting, almost always with yoga. The front of the body is moving up toward the sky, toward the heavens. So as a principle in yoga is that the whole front of the body, including the knees and the flesh below the knees, everything we imagine lifting up toward the heavens, toward the cosmos, the whole front body, even the face, just like when we smile. And in the back of the body, the back of the head, the neck, the shoulders, the spine, the tailbone, the buttocks, all of that descends toward the earth. So it's a circuit of energy. And when we're in Tadasana, we really connect with that circuit. We really can feel that we're a conduit between earth and sky, between Mother Earth and Father Sky. And if we don't care for those metaphors, just use whatever works for you. So connecting with the moon and the sun, connecting with the earth, the water, the air. We breathe in through our feet and connect with Tadasana. This is the #1 pose for getting grounded. Whenever we're feeling like, oh my gosh, I just need a minute. Taking a few breaths in Tadasana and connecting with our heart energy and our inner spirit and the energy of the universe around us can really reconnect us to our best and highest selves. So when I say it's the basic, most foundational pose because this is we use Tadasana for every other standing pose almost. And every other pose I'll be sharing with you on the mat, there'll be components that are Tadasana. Even if I have my legs apart, my upper body is going to be in Tadasana. The rest of me is all aligned, and I'm keeping those same principles that I just described. And especially when we do a balance pose, which I'd like us to move into now. Let's try tree pose, and it's good to have a support, either a wall or maybe your chair next to you, because not everybody's been practicing these, and I understand that some days we have balance and some days we don't. You don't need to be on the mat for this. So if you want to go to your wall, you don't need to bring your mat with you. And we'll just let our hand rest at the wall as we find Tadasana again. And really get those feet evenly rooted. You want your feet parallel to one another. They could be hip width apart or they could be closer. The traditional way they teach is to have the toes touching, but many of us have moved away from that tradition and have allowed the feet to be more supportive of the hips, particularly for female body people. So we stand with our heart lifting. We feel the weight now filling the left leg, and let that left leg be really strong and grounded like a tree trunk. Let the right foot and the right leg start to feel hollow, and turn that right knee outward into the space next to you so that the knee is 90 degrees away from your left foot. Your right knee is 90 degrees away from your left foot. And then you'll just let that foot rise, the right foot rise toward the calf of the left foot, left leg, and find connection there to the inner calf. If you've been practicing and you'd like to go higher, find a focal point to gaze at and bring that foot into the inner thigh of the left leg and let that thigh press into the sole of the foot so the thigh presses into the foot into the thigh. And you've got tree pose. And you can use the wall to support you here. And mindful of your breath. Letting the tail drop, letting the shoulders drop, letting the heart lift, and then bringing that foot back to rest in Tadasana. Notice the difference from side to side. Any messages from your body? The test of my inner peace, I guess. I believe you were still in tree pose and we were about to do the left side. So we're filling the right leg, and you may have already gotten there, brought your left foot up toward your inner thigh or your inner calf. See if you can keep your shoulders level and let your shoulders drop back. Use the wall of support if you need. Your arms can come up, or they can be at your waist, or they can be in prayer. And then we'll just come back to Tadasana and shake that out. And let's get down onto the floor, onto the mat. And we'll do Anatasana. This one's really nice because it's like tree pose, only it's lying down. So if tree pose was a little challenging for us today, and we really want to still get the benefits of some of that, we can do it this way, especially when it's 90 degrees, which it will be later, I guess. So we'll extend the left arm or right arm, whichever way you're lying, and let that arm be long underneath your head. Let your hips be stacked, one over the other, feet stacked, one over the other. So you're in Tadasana, only you're lying down. Then you can just take a nice breath in, release the shoulders down in the back, let the right knee come up, and see if you can get a hold of the ankle on the right side. Bring that foot into your inner thigh, the resting thigh, and let that knee come toward the ceiling. You can lift the arm up and let the arm come toward the arm on the floor so your fingers come together. And open the groin a little here, bringing that knee as high toward the ceiling as you can. And you can also flex the bottom leg to keep it strong as though it's on the floor and grounding you, just like you were a moment ago when we were standing. Find your breath here. Make sure your neck is nice and long here. And then if you'd like to try this, you can reach for your foot or your toe. You can also use a belt or a strap to support you with this if your arms aren't long enough. And just let that foot come up toward the ceiling. Get a full stretch in the back of that leg. This is truly Anatasana. The other was Supine Vriksasana, or resting tree pose. And then we'll fold that knee down, release the leg again, and we can swivel to the other side. Again, letting the arms and legs be nice and lined up as though we're in Tadasana, right? We're going to flex the feet to begin as though we're standing. Mind that that extended arm is not overextended, that the shoulders are engaged down the spine and not being torqued up. And then the left leg can come in, bending that knee, finding the thigh with the foot. You can use your hand to guide that knee so it's rising up toward the ceiling. There's a little bit of a balance here on the hip socket. And then let the arm come up to find the other arm. Another thing we can do in the comfort of our home while we're working and listening to an educational webinar. Why not? And then we'll let that arm come down, find the knee, the foot, the ankle, wherever it can reach. Raise that arm up. I'm sorry, raise that leg and arm up and fill the back of that leg. Press the opposite foot away in flexed pose. The flexed foot as though it's on the earth. And fill that raised leg right through the back hamstring. Feel the energy of that. And then you can fold that knee in. And of course, when you practice on your own, you can hold these poses for so much longer than we're doing today. Whatever feels good, you're going to hold for as long as you like. In the tradition that I study in, we don't rush through poses. I'm not doing Virasana. I'm not doing like a vinyasa flow here, which is also really nice. But I tend to do poses where you actually hold the pose and feel what's going on more. All right, so we're getting close to noon, and I really want us to get some rested poses in. So I think what we'll do next is Supta Baddha Konasana. And that's one where we bring the feet together. And for this pose, I wanted to demonstrate that you can make a homemade bolster for yourself by just taking a couple of blankets, rolling them into a cylinder like this, and then strapping them. I used a scarf here and an old yoga belt, but you could really tie them with anything and make yourself a bolster if you don't have a bolster already. Sometimes if you live with other people who have yoga mats and you have a second yoga mat, you could roll a few yoga mats up together, or if you happen to be lucky to have a bolster, you can use a bolster. But I'm going to demonstrate with my makeshift bolster here for Supta Baddha Konasana. And I'm going to just set that bolster right under my shoulders so that it's right. I want to make sure I have a block or a pillow for my head. So get that bolster right under your shoulders so your arms are off the bolster. And the block can be under your head. And your feet are together toward your groin. If your knees need support, you can always put a pillow under your thighs here to support your knees. And your arms can be overhead with the armpits open and the palms facing up. Or if you prefer, they can stay down, hands down. One is cooling and one is a little bit more invigorating. Anytime we have the hands over our heads, we're going to be warming up the body. We're going to be invigorating the body more. It's really great when we want to give ourselves energy to do mild back bends. This is considered a mild back bend. Since it's only close to noon and we're not ready to take a nap and call it a day, I thought we would end with a little bit more invigoration. So I'm doing a slight back bend here for awakening us for the rest of the day. Letting your breath be steady and sweet. Letting your shoulders drop toward the earth. And if this is not comfortable for you, please just roll right out of it into Shavasana, which is where we're going next. And for all of us, actually, since time is moving along, I'm sorry for the technical challenges that took up some time. We'll roll on to the right side. Come on up. Release all the props that might be in our way, and we'll settle ourselves back and down for Shavasana. And in Shavasana, we want to just let the body surrender, let everything release into the support of the earth. And we have our arms out to our sides, our palms can face up, our eyes can remain open or they can gently close, whatever's comfortable for you. It's nice to tuck the shoulders in to let the heart lift a little. But again, just do what feels right for you to release any striving, any effort from the body. Now we just let that all go. And we just let ourselves be with our breath. Noticing the rise and the fall of our bellies. Our chest, feeling the breath nourish us, all our essential parts. All the amazing miracles of our bodies. Let the breath nourish and restore. And we're going to rest here for a few more minutes. So just let yourself take your thoughts away for a moment. Let them wait in the waiting room. You can dismiss your thoughts by just bringing your focused attention to your breath. If that's not quite doing it for you, bring your attention to sensations in your body. How the surface of your skin is feeling. Is it warm? Is it cool? You feel the air on your skin. Allow yourself to stay present with where you are right here, right now in this particular moment. Cultivating our presence in the here and the now is one of the greatest gifts that yoga gives us. Relish the moment with yourself. Celebrate the moment with yourself. Allow yourself to feel the joy of being alive, the joy of being here with yourself right now. To have the breath that flows in and out with ease. This precious breath. This sacred breath. This most essential breath. And gently and slowly allow some movement in your toes and your fingers. Allow some movement in your legs. Let your knees bend so your feet can come to the mat and ground there. We'll just let our feet be mat width apart here, and let our arms be at shoulder height, shoulder distance, bringing the fingers apart from each other so the arms are outstretched. And we'll drop the knees off to the right with the breath, and then we'll bring them into the center and drop them off to the left. And just gently release any tension in the spine. And then we'll roll onto the right side and bring ourselves to a seated pose of your choice. Or come up to a chair if that's preferable. What I'm going to do so I can come over and see if there are any questions, any comments, any desires. So I would like to hear from the attendees now, if there are any questions or comments. I really welcome your input. I know that my colleagues have put in the chat a couple of questions. So if you haven't yet explored the chat option, please open up the chat and see the questions that are there. I'm curious as to whether this worked for you, despite the technical challenges and interruptions, which I apologize for once again. And if you would think that you would like to repeat something like this with me, I would love to hear from you. And I would like to know if what monthly would be good, or if you'd like it a little bit less often, or if you think other members of your team would like to join who couldn't be here today, and whether you know any preferences that your group has. Because I really feel like Ms. Casa has the capacity to support this work right now. And I'd like to take advantage of that capacity and offer it to y'all. We can certainly explore other self-care practices as time allows. And I look forward to hearing some of your thoughts and some of your ideas for other ways we can take care of ourselves as individuals and as communities. I also want to offer that in the slides, you'll see this. In fact, maybe I'll bring up the slides once again. I see some of the comments and I'm really delighted to see them. Yes, I would like to offer meditation later on in my journey here. I feel a little bit less competent in doing that just yet since I'm not officially certified, but I can certainly share some mindful self-compassion tips along the way since I did get that training this winter. I'm going to see if I can share my screen again. Of course, things have changed because my computer shut down before. So I need to just take a second to find what I need. I'll be right with you folks. I'm just pulling up the screen of my PowerPoint slides so that you can see some of the other resources I had put there in case you have any questions while we're together that I might be able to answer. I just want to remind us some health tips. I saw some comments about healthy diets and other interest in wellness and nutrition. So I just thought I would stop at this slide here to remind us to drink a lot of water right now, particularly after this class. And I just wanted to reflect on the idea that our body is such a resource for us, right? It can be a challenge, our bodies, and there are days when we probably wish we could trade it in for a different model. But honestly, my body's taught me more than anything about how to navigate life. And I really have to honor that, even though there are days when I feel like, wow, I got that from dad and I got that from mom, and geez, I wish it was the other way around. But I want to just mention too that when we're working with survivor clients and we're able to model self-respect for our bodies and self-care for ourselves, that they really can see that, and they can really, it can remind them, right? It can remind them of the sacredness of their bodies, the holiness of their bodies. And when, you know, we know that survivors are the experts on themselves. Anybody who's been working in this field knows that, right? And we can support their belief in this fact by being experts on ourselves too. So just remembering that one of the primary principles of yoga is that self-knowledge is a yoga practice, and it takes a daily attention. Here I am using a clicker for a different computer, so that's why it's not working. So the other 8 limbs of yoga are the yamas, the niyamas, and these slides that don't seem to fit my screen, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. There'll be more sent to you about that, and then additional links that I thought you might like to explore on your own. Some of these have been shared at previous Building Connections trainings that Deb and I have done, or my former project partner and I have done with Richard Brown and Patricia Gerbarg. For any of you who attended those, I included those links on the breathbodymind.com, as well as the more recent course that Deb and I took from the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion. And these online resources are actual yoga sequence videos. So there's several different ones here. A few of them I've actually explored in depth. I recently took a class from The Well, which is this, I think it's the 5th one, the 5th link here, which is a really awesome group of folks. They offered it through Facebook. I found it that way. I stumbled upon it. It was a lovely, much shorter class, but it was really, really nicely done. And it was all about self-love. How are we loving ourselves today? It was a really great break for me at the end of my workday. So I encourage you to explore these different links. And of course, you can always explore Yoga Journal or Yoga International or the Chopra Center for additional resources. They're all easily found on YouTube and just by Googling them. And I know for a fact that until the end of August, the Chopra Center is offering a free meditation series, a 21-day meditation series, and you can start it and end it anytime, any day. It's not like limited to specific days, and the link is there. And then, of course, Niskasa's library, we also contain a number of resources that you might find really useful. A couple of those I know we mailed to Rate Crisis Programs. One of these titles, in fact, I have the book handy. I'm just going to show and tell it. But it's the Overcoming Trauma Through Yoga, Reclaiming Your Body book. Really nice book with an introduction by Bessel van der Kolk. So those of you who are doing trauma work with clients might find that one particularly helpful in supporting your survivor clients with embodied techniques for managing their stress and reclaiming their rights to their bodies, the right to feel joyful within our bodies, right? We all have that right. And here's my contact info. Should you have questions that you'd like to contact me privately, I'm more than happy to answer questions, engage in a conversation on the phone or through a Zoom if you'd like. Really, this is what I'm here to do. I feel like more and more it's my privilege to do this work. It's my great privilege to share what I've learned over the 21 years at Niskasa, that Niskasa has given me a platform to explore so much about myself as a survivor. And I really know that it's time for me to make sure I give you some of those resources.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
We're not able to see the slide with your contact information. You might have to change the window for the screen
Okay.
sharing.
How's that one? Oh, let me go back.
Yeah, we see what you're doing now, so I think that'll work once you get to it. Yep, there it is. And I also put your email address in the chat for folks who need it.
Oh, great. Thank you, Chelsea.
And there was a question. Are you going to be able to share your PowerPoint slide with people who registered?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Fabulous.
And they'll be much more readable on your, I think, on your laptops than they are here. And you can certainly print them out. Are there any other questions?
We're just seeing in the chat, folks are definitely interested in more offerings of this, similar kind of mindfulness meditation, other like holistic healing practices,
Wonderful.
and some really, really nice thank yous.
Well, I thank everybody for being present with me today to practice a bit of yoga and a bit of technological practice as well for me. Thank you, Chelsea, and the team at Niscasa for supporting me through those moments. I could feel you even though I couldn't see you or hear you. And I'm really delighted that those who could join me today did show up and prioritize this for yourselves. It's really important. I wanted to just mention too that, you know, we're approaching midsummer, right? August 1st and August 2nd is an ancient holiday that in some parts of the world we call Lammas or Lunarsad. It's a time for separating the wheat from the chaff. It's a time for gathering what we want, harvesting all that nourishes us, and dispensing with that which does not. So I just leave that for food for thought for everyone. I think this came at a really fortuitous moment, this opportunity to share with you. And I really look forward to seeing y'all again, hopefully not too long from now. I'm going to try to look at the calendar and see what's possible to repeat something like this. I know there were a number of folks who had contacted me who said they couldn't make it today, and I'd love to share more than a recording that has 2 interruptions with them. So I want to thank you all, and if there's no further questions, I guess we'll let it go for today.